San Antonio attorney Alan Tysinger talking about some of the advantages and pitfalls of giving a recorded statement to the insurance company after an injury claim. Now, when you're injured on the job or in an auto accident, a slip and fall, whatever it might be, usually what happens is a proactive insurance company is going to reach out to you following receipt of a claim or an incident report, and they're going to want to take some kind of a statement. They're going to want to get nailed down what happened. What happened to you? How were you injured? What were the circumstances leading up to it? Who was involved? Were there any other parties that might bear responsibility? What was done afterwards? Who saw it? And who would be able to provide further information to be able to validate what happened. Those are all important things for them to look at. Part of their evaluation as well is going to be other factors not really directly related to the actual incident. So they're going to want to know information about your family. Are you married? The reason they're going to want to know that is because if you were to die, let's say you had an injury to your back and you had surgery and the surgery had complications and you died, well, your family would be able to make a death claim arising out of the injury. And so if the insurance adjuster can find out, are you married, that's going to be important evidence for them to be able to consider a claim made by somebody on behalf of you after a death. Do you have kids? That'll give information to the adjuster for those sorts of purposes. They're also going to be looking at things like your past medical history. You fell down and you claim to have injured your back. Well, have you had a back injury before? Have you had back surgery? Have you had treatment? Have you gone to the chiropractor? Those things are relevant in evaluating the case from an insurance standpoint. There are going to be other issues as well, such as your educational background. That's going to affect your ability to get other jobs in the future, and that's going to impact your damages. So a lot of times insurance adjusters will be focusing on their evaluation of the claim in ways that directly relate to the incident and in ways that relate to the broader picture of what the claim might be worth. They're also going to try to trip you up, and that's some of the pitfalls that we can look at here. So a lot of times they're going to be looking at things they can do to pin the blame on you or put you in a situation where you have compromised the value of your claim by providing them with defenses. So let me give you some examples of that. They are going to want to put you in a bad spot by, for example, in a slip and fall accident, they're going to ask you questions which suggest that you maybe weren't paying enough attention to the floor, resulting in you falling because you didn't see whatever it was that was left behind. So if there was a banana on the floor or a puddle of water, then they're going to try to ask you questions suggesting that maybe you weren't focused on the floor enough to be reasonably aware what was on the surface, so that you bear some responsibility, if not all the responsibility, for what happened to you. That's important to know how to answer wisely under the facts of your case so as not to undermine your claim. They're also going to be looking at things like, in a workers' compensation claim, defenses that may be raised on their behalf. So, when did you get hurt? How quickly did you report that to your employer? To whom did you report it? Were there other things going on in your employment situation that might suggest you had other motives for filing a claim? Were there any witnesses to you being injured? Will those witnesses back you up? Or will the witnesses suggest maybe you had always complained about a chronic back problem even before you fell on the job? Those are important things for an adjuster to look at. So specifically in a Texas workers' compensation claim, they're going to be looking to see if maybe this happened more than 30 days before you reported it. So if you got hurt and you kind of blew it off, thought, well, I'm sore, I'll get better, and you let time pass and you don't report the injury promptly, then the insurance company can deny the claim by saying that you reported it outside of 30 days and your claim is barred. That is an important thing to watch out for, especially in repetitive trauma claims, because most of the time, if somebody has a traumatic injury, a single event, most of the time they're going to report it right away, or at least within a few days. But often when it is a repetitive trauma, in other words, something that is from the wear and tear, the grind of doing strenuous work day in and day out without any specific event involved, people will tend to wait on it, sit on it, and see if it just goes away. And so if you have a situation where you don't report it for more than 30 days because it starts out as a nagging issue and it gets worse, the insurance company will definitely seize on that. But what's tricky and what they will also do is they will try to get you to pinpoint the onset of the symptoms as far back as possible. So maybe you didn't really get hurt until June the 1st, and it's now June the 15th. So you get hurt, you really start to feel it, and so you report it within 2 weeks. Well, that's not going to be a major problem for the claim, but the insurance adjuster may try to dig a little and plant the seed that maybe this is something that's been going on longer. So anybody who's had a strenuous job knows they're going to have aches and pains. So maybe you started to feel a little twinge in that injured shoulder 6 months before you really were injured. The insurance adjuster may try to plant that seed and get you to agree that that's when your injury really started. And they may do that by reinforcing the idea that it really was the work that was causing the problem, but by trying to point backwards in time to a date that is so remote that your claim would be denied and that you would lose. So these are things that you have to worry about as pitfalls in giving a statement to the insurance company. So the next question is, well, why would you ever do that if they're just going to use it against you? Well, that's a good question, and a lot of attorneys will answer that by saying, no, we don't give statements to the insurance company. I take a little bit of a different approach. I want to get as much information to the insurance company and on record as possible, and I want to get it to them as quickly as possible. And the reason I think that's important is, number one, if they see that you have a high value claim from the beginning, they're going to evaluate it as such. Insurance adjusters tend to be more prone to deny or minimize a claim when it gets shoved on them at the last minute, when it's right before they have to make a decision to pay. So that, I think, is important and something to look at. Another factor is that it can actually help you document your claim. So in other words, if you know ahead of time how to answer those questions, you've been prepared about how to answer what happened, where it happened, how to describe the injury in a way that makes sense to the insurance adjuster, how to make sure that all of the body parts that were injured are included and nothing gets left out of that list. That, you know, you went to the emergency room and the emergency room only documented that you had an elbow injury, but you know that you injured your elbow and your shoulder and your hip and you had a mild concussion. That all of that information gets to the insurance company and to the adjuster as soon as possible, so that if it gets questioned later, you can say, let's go back to the statement I gave. Pull up the statement and you'll see that 3 days after the accident happened, I told you that the ER was wrong. They only looked at my elbow, but I had a concussion and a shoulder injury and a hip injury too. That will actually help you win the claim. So those sorts of things are reasons to actually give a claim, give a recorded statement in a claim, and give the adjuster a reason to accept your claim. Now, what circumstances are involved when an adjuster will give you the opportunity to give a statement. Most of the time it's subjective with the insurance companies. Some have a policy of giving statements. Some only really look for statements when they're looking to undermine your claim. So be wary of that, but be considerate of the fact that an insurance adjuster's job is to be asked for money all day, every day. And the more information you can give them to make that job of agreeing to pay you easy on them, the better your claim will go for you.